Chapter 2851. You have to see her, whether it's as a doctor or as a relative, Qin Shun said softly. Then she said, I will find a way to make a suitable 3D printed prosthesis for her so that she can walk normally. This was the only thing she could do for Sia. As for her heart, she had to slowly figure it out herself. Lanyu was a little worried. Do you want me to send you there? Qin Shun smiled. You said it yourself. It's not good for her to see you. If you go like this, won't you be in trouble? I can handle it. Lanyu nodded. Then I'll send you to the hospital. I'll pick you up after work. Qin Shun looked at him and said after a while, I have something to do at noon. I'll come over by myself tonight. He naturally understood that she had something to do. It was Rong Lei's matter. She had been with Rong Lei before, and now she wanted to be with him. She had to make it clear to Rong Lei. Lanyu frowned. I'm worried. It's okay. Qin Shun smiled and put her hand on the back of his hand. I've known him for many years, and we haven't been together for so many years. He won't force me. She said this, but she wasn't too sure. Lanyu looked at her for a long time before nodding. Okay, I'll take you home then. Qin Shun nodded. After breakfast, he sent her to the hospital. Before Qin Shun got out of the car, Lanyu dragged her and said a lot of things. He felt like an old man. At this time, he also forgot that Qin Shun had sharp tongue. That was probably what it meant when one cared too much. Qin Shun had been very patient and didn't show any impatience. He finally finished what he needed to say and looked at her gently. Qin Shun, do you think I'm annoying? She smiled. No. Lanyu finally let her out of the car and watched her walk towards the elevator. He didn't leave immediately. Instead, he sat in the car and smoked, looking at her back. Qin Shun went back to his office first and changed into a doctor's robe. A nurse came in and said hesitantly that Huang Xia was making trouble. Did you inject him with tranquilizers? Qin Shun asked indifferently. The nurse was a little angry. The patient's family is too overbearing. They refuse to take the medicine and even threaten to jump off the building if you don't show up. Did you jump? Qin Shun looked at the young nurse. The nurse's lips twitched. I'm just screaming. I can't bear to die. Qin Shun raised his hand. I got it. You can leave now. The nurse nodded, but she turned her head at the door. Dr. Qin, I'll be outside. If you go over later, call me. I can protect you. Qin Shun smiled. Okay. The nurse gave him another encouraging gesture and added, Dr. Qin, we all think you and Mr. Lanyu are more compatible. Qin Shun was stunned. Really? Yes. There was a dreamy look in the nurse's eyes. We all know that you are. The nurse stuck out her tongue and didn't say the word woman. She closed the door, and Qin Shun smiled. She sat in the office and smoked a cigarette. She took Huang Xia's medical records and walked out of the door. The nurse was still at the door. Seeing her come out, she immediately followed. Dr. Qin. Chapter 2852. Unexpectedly, the nurse asked, Dr. Qin, do you often change your clothes when you are with Mr. Lan? Do you wear them or Mr. Lan? Qin Shun was speechless. He took the medical record and knocked on her head, and then walked into the elevator. He was in a relaxed mood at first, but when he walked to the ward, he was not so relaxed. In the ward, Huang Xia was lying expressionlessly, and Huang Xia's mother was very excited when she saw Qin Shun. She went forward and grabbed Qin Shun's collar and said hoarsely, Where is Lanyu? You said that Lanyu was going to marry Xia. Where is he? Qin Shun had never been a kind person. He looked at Huang Xia's mother, who was also her elder, and said softly, I am with him. Not only was Huang Xia's mother stunned, but Huang Xia was also stunned. There were tears on her face, and she looked at Qin Shun. Are you with him? Her voice was a little torn, and then she laughed and cried. Qin Shun, you said that you are with him. Then what am I? Did my leg break in vain? She patted the emptiness on her side. This place will be empty forever. There is no flesh, blood, or bones. You cut it off with your own hands, remember? Her expression became fierce. You did it on purpose. You were afraid that I would take away Lanyu, so you deliberately cut off my leg. It could have been kept, right? Qin Shun, you are a vicious person. You don't deserve to be a doctor. Huang Xia said hoarsely, You are so vicious. You broke my leg, and you also took away Lanyu. Why? Why do you want to take away everything from me? Do you want to ruin my life? Looking at the crazy Huang Xia, the nurse on the side couldn't help but refute. Dr. Qin is the best doctor. If he didn't cut off your leg at that time, you wouldn't have been able to save your life. Now you're talking nonsense and being ungrateful. Huang Xia was stunned. Maybe she didn't expect that a nurse would dare to talk back to her. But her mother immediately rushed over and tore the nurse. What do you know? If it weren't for Xia saving this ungrateful person, would her leg be like this? Qin Shun, you pay for Xia's leg. Her leg can't recover, and you can't live well either. Your leg or Lan Yu, you choose one. Huang Xia's mother used to be a rich family, but in recent years, she had a better life. Huang Xia was an only daughter, so she couldn't distinguish right from wrong. Qin Shen's eyes quietly fell on Huang Xia's face and asked lightly, Xia, why you lost your leg? Didn't you tell your mother? Huang Xia was stunned, but then she said, I broke my leg to save you. Qin Shen lowered his eyes and said, I think there was a surveillance camera at that time, and it was not difficult to find the driver. Maybe we should find that person, and it is good for everyone to find out the truth. If you want to pay for your leg, let the person who hit you pay for your leg. What do you think? She said word by word, find that person, and I will personally cut off her leg and connect it to your leg. Huang Xia was stunned. She didn't expect Qin Shan to have such a move. The nurse on the side was very happy. This shameless woman was shameless. Last time in the hospital, she also took the initiative to pester Mr. Lan. She was the third party, and this third party was still so righteous. And now it seemed that this matter was not simple. Chapter 28:53. The nurse sneered and said, Dr. Qin is right. Find that person and give her leg to you, but don't call her if it's not suitable. After all, it's not the original. How could Huang Xia stand what the nurse said? She hugged her head and screamed, Mom, let them out. I don't want to see them, and I don't want to see Qin Shun. She cried hysterically. She must have seduced Lan Yu. It must be. Otherwise, Lan Yu had already promised to marry me. Why did he change his mind? It must be her, Mom. She hurt me. The nurse at the side opened her eyes. Huang Xia was already in her 20s. In her eyes, she was a giant baby who asked her parents to give her what she wanted. If she wanted a man, she asked her mother to throw a tantrum. Was it something that could be obtained by throwing a tantrum? Even if she got it, what was the point of getting it if the man didn't love her? The nurse said, You hurt yourself. Can you blame others? Huang Xia screamed again, Mom, let her out, get out. I don't want to see anyone. Mother Huang immediately said sternly, Go, go. The nurse wasn't a pushover. If you don't want to stay in Xinyuan, no one will stop you. You can transfer to another hospital. She secretly thought that it would be best to transfer them to a mental hospital. It would be best for both mother and daughter to go together and get a VIP room that suited their status. Huang Xia was sick, and her mother was even more sick. Qin Shen was also a little speechless. In the past, Huang Xia's family wasn't too close, but in her impression, they were normal. But now, it seemed that they were simply sick. She originally felt a little guilty, but now it was completely unnecessary. From the beginning to the end, Huang Xia reaped what she sowed. She was lucky that she didn't play with her life. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, Qin Shen couldn't take it anymore and started to cry. Qin Shen, you're going back on your words. You said that you're going to let Lan Yu be with me and marry me. Qin Shen paused. This kind of thing, no one can force the other. Huang Xia laughed coldly. Then you can at least not be with him, right? Don't tell me that he asked to be with you. I don't believe it. He hates you to death. He hates you to death for being with another man. Qin Shun, don't you think you're dirty? Don't you think you're a pervert? Do you think that Lan Yu will love you for the rest of his life? Look at yourself in the mirror. Do you think that Lan Yu will always love you? In your dreams. Qin Shun turned his head and was about to refute when a familiar man said, I will always love her. Qin Shun was stunned and turned around. Lan Shun stood at the door and, Lan Shun. Lan is Lan Shun. Lan Chun. Lan check, come on, Lan, come on, Lan, come on, leap shy. Huang Xia knows what she has done. Qin Shun saved her life because she is a doctor, not because she feels guilty. He said it so bluntly, and the mother and daughter couldn't take a word. Because that was the truth. Lan Yu stared at them for a long time, then continued coldly, "Don't let me know that you are looking for trouble with Qin Shin again, or I'll make her lose her other leg." Chapter 28:54. Qin Shin looked at Lan Yu's ugly face and found it funny. She pulled him and said, "All right, let's go." He pulled her hand and said, "Come with me." Qin Shin didn't know what to do with him. She smiled and walked out with him. Back in her office, she made a cup of coffee for him and quietly brewed it while she was in a daze. When it was ready, she would serve it to him. Lan Yu didn't take the coffee but pulled her to his side and said, "Aren't you angry that she said that to you?" Qin Shin smiled and shook her head. "There's nothing to be angry about." She paused and continued, "She lost a leg. She's much worse than me." She touched her hair with her fingers. Hair can grow, but legs can't grow. Lan Yu's gaze landed on her slender fingers. With a gentle tug, he pulled her against his shoulder and murmured, "Chun Chun, I'm still a little unsure. I can't believe you're with me just like this. You clearly liked him so much in the past. After so many years, it's not easy to change your habits. Just like how I like to wear men's clothes and make myself look like a man, right?" She tilted her head and smiled. "Do you think I suddenly want to wear women's clothes and change back to my original appearance?" She said slowly, "When your state of mind changes, everything changes." Her fingers stroked his deep facial features, and she said softly, "I will solve everything." He grabbed her hand and placed it in his palm, not letting her leave. He slowly caressed it, and after a long time, he said, "But I think it's better if I do it. Just like today, I shouldn't let my woman be treated like this." Qin Shun shook his head. "Lan Yu, I'm not that weak. You don't have to worry about me. I'll talk to Lan Yu." Originally, there was nothing to talk about, but when she and Lan Yu separated, she was indeed with Rong Lei. It didn't matter if he didn't say it, but the power behind Rong Lei made Qin Shin afraid. Moreover, there was a woman sandwiched between two men. It was better not to see each other. She smiled and comforted him. "Don't worry, I will handle it properly." Lan Yu's dark eyes locked onto hers. There was a lot of gentleness in his eyes. He didn't let go of her, and she didn't struggle. Instead, she sat in his arms and whispered, "Why did you come back? Aren't you going to the company?" Lan Yu smiled lightly. "I was worried, so I came back to take a look." His thin lips kissed the corner of her mouth. "Our usually so venomous Dr. Qin is actually being bullied. I was going easy on her." Qin Shin glared at him. "You still have a nerve to say that? Didn't you invite her?" He smiled and patted her face. "Weren't you the one who cried and wanted to get back together with me?" Qin Shin's face was a little hot, and she was so angry that she bit him on the cheek. Lan Yu's eyes darkened. He stared at her and said in a low voice, "Chun Chun, have you thought it through? This time, I won't let you leave." She looked at him and smiled. "I won't leave you." His eyes became even more gentle. In the end, he probably had to worry about the meeting, so he left first. But before he left, he still drank the coffee she made. Qin Shin drank 2 cups of coffee in the office after she left. Then he called Rong Lei. It had been 2 days since they last parted. Chapter 28:55. The moment the phone was connected, Qin Shin's voice was a little hoarse. "Rong Lei, I have something to say to you. If it's important, then let's talk when we meet." Rong Lei's tone was very indifferent. "I'm at the villa. Come here." His tone was no longer as gentle as before, but a little domineering. Qin Chun pursed his lips. "Rong Lei, we've known each other for so long. Don't you want to meet me?" Rong Lei's voice was cold. "Qin Shun, you've forgotten the past, but I haven't." Qin Shun agreed in the end, not because he couldn't forget the past, but because he couldn't forget the powerful force behind Rong Lei. She couldn't offend him too much. She drove the white sports car and arrived at his villa an hour later. As soon as she entered, Anna was already in the hall to greet her. "Master is in the kitchen. Miss Qin, this way, please." Qin Shin nodded and followed her. Anna led the way, but soon left. Qin Shin stood at the entrance of a bright and tidy Western-style kitchen. He looked at Rong Lei, who was wearing a white shirt and a pair of iron gray pants. He looked very expensive. At this time, he was standing in front of the counter with a Western chef beside him. He was communicating with the kitchen. Seeing Qin Shin at the door, he said something to the person, and the chef left with a smile. Ronglei began to cook and said, "Why don't you come in since you're here?" Qin Shin looked at him and said slowly, "When did you learn how to cook?" Ronglei looked down at the fine wounds on his hand and smiled. "Just these 2 days." He looked up. "When you were with Lanyu, I called the chef and learned how to cook at home for 2 days. Qin Shin, come here. It'll be ready in a moment." He smiled at her. Qin Shin walked over slowly and stood beside him. "Ronglei, I have something to tell you," she said softly. Ronglei was still looking at the fine wounds on his hand. He calmly said, "Let's wait until we eat. It doesn't matter." She tilted her head and looked at him. "You won't even give me this little bit of time, right?" Qin Shin shook his head. "Okay." She sat at the small dining table and looked at him quietly. He was still perfect, with no blind spots. He looked good in anything, but now he seemed to be obsessed with haute couture clothes. Qin Shin used to be a very particular person, but when she saw Ronglei like this, she felt a little tired. He felt very tired. Instead, she recalled how Lanyu would casually put on a pair of jeans after showering. He looked very good in them, especially the t-shirt, which was firm and powerful. He also liked to stand on the terrace topless and smoke a cigarette. Qin Shin smiled slightly, and Ronglei caught this smile. He came over with a plate of curry chicken wings and said lightly, "The bottom layer is a layer of mashed potatoes mixed with ketchup. It tastes very good. The chef just now is a Michelin chef who used to cook for the British royal family." Qin Shin listened and felt a little numb. She used to pursue delicacy, but at this moment, she didn't feel anything. She even felt that it was a little ridiculous and exaggerated. Ronglei brought over 2 exquisite plates with dishes on them. It was obvious that he was going to eat with her. "I also baked an egg pudding for you." He leaned forward and placed his hands on the back of her chair. "Wait for me." Chapter 2856. He also opened a bottle of red wine and swirled it gently. "To celebrate my first time cooking for a girl." Qin Shin couldn't help saying, "Ronglei, you don't have to do this." He stopped her, sat opposite her, and raised his glass. "I told you, we'll talk after we eat." Qin Shin looked at the glass of wine in his hand and lost her appetite. However, she still tried her best to eat the food. It did taste good. With the guidance of the top chef Michelson, the taste couldn't be too bad. Ronglei looked at her with a deep gaze, and then said softly, "The dessert is also very good." Qin Shin looked at him and didn't remind him that she actually didn't like desserts, but she still ate it. She only took 2 bites when she noticed something strange. She picked out something hard and put it in the clean water. It was a perfect pink diamond ring, dazzling to the eyes. Although Qin Shin didn't like these, she had seen it in a magazine. This diamond was called Pink Beauty, and it had been auctioned for more than $1 billion a few years ago. Now it was in front of her. She looked up at the man opposite her. Ronglei took the ring, got up, walked behind her, and hugged her from behind. "Chun, he said in a hoarse voice. "I can do what he can do, and I can do what he can't." His tone became solemn. "Marry me." Then, he took her hand and tried to put the ring on her. The Pink Beauty was dazzling, and there was no woman in the world who wouldn't love it. It was like the most beautiful tear of a beauty. Qin Shin lowered her eyes and looked at it. In the end, she withdrew her fingers and said, "Ronglei, I'm sorry. I can't promise you." Because of him? There was a tinge of nervousness in Ronglei's voice, but he still did not let go of her. In terms of looks, status, and ability, which part of me is inferior to him? Qin Shin pursed her lips again and again. She turned her head and looked at Ronglei. "I've promised him that we're together." Her voice became firm. "Ronglei, let's break up." She changed her words. "Actually, we've been separated for a long time, since 12 years ago, right?" Ronglei's body froze, and the aura surrounding her became deathly still. He took a sip of red wine and leaned closer to her. "Are you serious, Qin Shin?" She grunted, "Really? I like him." "What do you like about him?" "You like that he can cook, and I can cook too. Or you like that he can draw. Now that his hands are disabled, he probably can't draw anymore. I still like the hotel he runs. I can destroy everything he has at any time. Qin Shin, I can give you everything, including your dreams." I can help you with your dreams that you don't want to realize. You will stand at the top of the world and be admired by thousands of people. Ronlei's voice became a little soft. Chen, don't you like this? I don't like it. Shen's voice was very calm. Ronlei, I don't like this kind of life. I like to be alone or to have someone with me. That's enough. She lowered her eyes and looked at the expensive cutlery on the dining table, as well as the pink diamond in his hand. I used to like those things because I was chasing after someone, but now that I've given up on him, I can naturally give up on these things too. Chapter 28:57. They were very similar. He was much taller than her, but her aura was no less imposing than his. She said in a low voice, Ronlei, I'm sorry. I can't continue to love you. Maybe I used to love you, but it's been too long, or maybe you've gone too far. I can't find the feeling I had back then. She raised her head, her eyes watery. The man in front of her used to be her faith for so many years. But now, she was saying goodbye to him. Ronlei narrowed his eyes. He stared into her eyes and said softly, You're humbling yourself because of Lanyu? Are you afraid that I'll deal with him? Will you? Shun smiled faintly. Ronlei, you have your pride. Let's forget about it. Ronlei stared at her for a long time and suddenly smiled. He calmly walked to his chair and elegantly finished his meal. Wiping his lips, he slowly said, Shun, I just said that I want you to be admired by tens of thousands of people. I'm not just saying it. You can't escape just because you don't want to. He tilted his handsome face. This world is already crazy, and we need a strong ruler to maintain order. Shun, you'll help me, won't you? He smiled slightly. If you help me, then you can be with Lanyu. In addition, I can also help Mr. Land's hotel business. The plan to take over the world's hotels sounds crazy, but it's not impossible. There was a faint but crazy smile in his eyes. Shun, I believe in your choice. You're crazy. Shun gritted his teeth. This world doesn't need that. You're crazy. Crazy? Ronlei's eyes darkened, and he kept staring at Shen's eyes. Shen suddenly felt dizzy and wanted to sleep. Then she realized that Ronlei knew hypnosis, and he used it on her. She slowly fell to the ground, lying on the top of the dining table. Ronlei calmly picked up the wine beside him and sipped it elegantly. When he finished half the cup, he chuckled and said, Good girl. After that, he put down the glass and slipped the pink ring on her slender finger. Perfect size, perfect. Shun, how could I bear to give you to him? Ronlei kissed her lips and murmured, You are mine, forever my Shun. It was quiet in the luxurious master bedroom. Anna stood behind Ronlei and asked carefully, Master, why don't you hypnotize her and make her think that she still likes you? Ronlei's tall figure stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. The night breeze caressed his black hair, making him look even more mysterious. He slowly turned around with a cold look on his face. Idiot! Can Shen still master those amazing technologies when she's 12 years old? Anna was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. She immediately looked down and said, I misspoke, master. Gao! Ronlei's gaze was fierce. Anna reluctantly glanced at the woman on the bed, but she still left first. As soon as she left, the person on the bed moved slightly. At this moment, she was wearing a silk negligee. The soft material clung to her body like a second layer of skin, showing off her perfect and delicate figure. She was beautiful, much more beautiful than he imagined. Did she once expose her beautiful body to other men in front of Lanyu like this? Chapter 28:58. Ronlei looked at Shen on the bed for a long time before he slowly walked to the bar. He poured himself a glass of wine and sipped it lightly. He was not in a hurry to possess her because she was his. He did not need to be impatient like a rash kid. In her heart, he was always elegant. Ronlei took the last sip of wine and walked step by step towards the luxurious bed, and also towards the most important girl in his life. He had had many women, but no one could replace the position of Shen in his heart. That was the most pure place in his youth. And now, she was lying so perfectly on his bed, beautiful and holy. Ronlei sat and gently touched her face with his slender fingers. Shen's beauty was earth-shattering, and it also stirred up Lei. He wanted her. This deep desire had been there for a long time, but he did not want to scare her. But now, he was determined to possess her. In this way, he would also cut off the thoughts between her and Lanyu. Lei raised his hand and unbuttoned his shirt, one by one. When the shirt fell down, it was a strong and muscular body. Then, he gently pressed a switch. Instantly, cameras rose from all directions in the bedroom, and at least 10 of them were aimed at the luxurious bed. His face was filled with the repression of a love jade, and it was a kind of determination. He half knelt in front of Qin Shun, slowly leaned over, and kissed her lips, but before his lips could touch her, his heart was pressed by a sharp object. Lei narrowed his eyes and looked down at the delicate scalpel in Qin Shun's hand. It's best not to move. This knife can cut a cow's bone in a second. Qin Shun opened her eyes and looked at Lei. If you don't want to live, you can try. Lei's gaze was locked onto her. His voice was low and hoarse, and there was even a hint of anger in it. Are you going to fall out with me for a mere Lanyu? He restrained his voice. Chun, have you forgotten our wonderful days in France? I haven't forgotten. Qin Shun looked at him. But I am not me, and you are not you. She smiled and said, You don't love me as much as you think. In your heart, I'm no longer Qin Shun, but a genius doctor, right? Lei gently caressed her face and said softly, Is that what you think? Then what do you want me to think? Qin Shun laughed mockingly. After all these years, don't you feel any heartache when you see me? For a 12-year-old girl to isolate herself for 12 years for someone she likes. You think it's normal for me to be like this, but that's because you don't love me. Lei pinched her face. In this world, no one loves you more than I do. He leaned over to kiss her. The knife in Qin Shun's hand was pressed against him. A drop of blood seeped out, followed by a string of blood. Her white pajamas were soon stained with blood, but she didn't let go. Lei kissed her lips gently and murmured, Are you willing to kill me? Qin Shun, are you really going to fall out with me for a man? He reached out to grab her hand, as if he didn't see the wound in his heart. I don't believe that in your heart, I can't compare to him. Qin Shun looked down. You can try to touch me again. Lei's body leaned down. The knife in her hand sank into his body inch by inch. Chapter 2859. She suddenly withdrew her hand, and his blood spurted out. Lei was still smiling. What's wrong, Qin Shun? You can't bear to see me like this? Qin Shun looked at him. You're crazy. Lei chuckled, and his face was pale. I'm crazy. He gently stroked her little face with his bloody hand. Qin Shun, I'll let you go, but you could try what will happen if you stay with him. Will this man be able to persevere to the end like you? What do you want to do? Qin Shun's pupils contracted. Lei looked down at his wound and said lightly, Bandage my wound, or I'll probably bleed to death, and you won't be able to walk out of here. He propped himself up and pointed at a cabinet. There's a medicine box in there. Qin Shun looked at him for a while, but still walked over and took out the medicine box. When she was bandaging his wound, Lei grabbed her hand and said painfully, Qin Shun, you really don't love me anymore? Qin Shun looked at him and said softly, I'm sorry. She smiled again. It was a very faint smile. I've waited for you for 12 years. If you came back 1 or 2 years earlier, I don't think there would be law in you. Sometimes, fate was like this. When you wanted to look back, that person was already gone. Lei's face was a little ugly, but he didn't say anything. Qin Shun silently bandaged his wound. When he was done, he said self-mockingly, If it wasn't for him, you probably wouldn't be willing to talk to me, let alone bandage my wound. Qin Shun looked at him. Lei, our relationship is not as bad as you think. Qin Shun, I won't give up. Lei slowly stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. After a long time, he tilted his head slightly. Either you kill me just now, or you walk out and worry about whether you and Lanyu can last long, he smiled faintly. Qin Shun, you said I don't love you. You said you waited for me for so many years. But do you know all these years? Do you know how it feels to hold on to one's last breath in the midst of being shattered and to live on for the good in one's heart? He looked at her. I spent nearly 6 years on the sickbed. I lived like a dying dog. At that time, you were all I had. If I had known that you would like someone else, I would have come back to you, even if I had to crawl. Ronley lowered his eyes. If you mind those women, I won't touch them in the future. This was the biggest concession he could make to her. After all, the Roan family needed him to expand their family. Because there weren't many people, the family hoped that he could have more women and children. However, he was sure that the eldest son would be born by Chunxin and would be his successor in the future. He was sure that in the end, he would be the one to get Qinshun and not the man named Lanyu. How could that man be worthy of his Chunxin? Qinshun stood up and put on his shirt. He said calmly, "That's it. Ronley, you don't have to go easy on me the next time we meet. I don't need to either." His story was very touching. Perhaps in the past, she would have been touched and would have stayed behind regardless of everything. She would even go against the entire world for the person in her heart, because he was her entire world. But now, she knew that the world wasn't just black and white. There were many other colors. Chapter 2860. This world was free, and it didn't belong to anyone. As for her, she should be free to choose the life she wanted and the person she wanted. "Ronley, I'm sorry," she whispered. "I want to be with him." After saying that, she walked straight out. Ronley paused and looked at her. Qinshun took off the ring on his finger and placed it on the bed. He said softly, "This doesn't belong to me." His lips moved, but he didn't say anything in the end. She still chose Lanyu, the man who he thought was inferior to him. When Qinshun opened the door, Anna was standing at the door. She subconsciously stopped Qinshun. "Let her go." Ronley's voice was very indifferent. Anna didn't move, and her voice was a little tense. "Master, why did you let her go?" However, as soon as she finished speaking, there was a bloody mark on her neck. An exquisite blade grazed her neck, and the last bit was stuck in her flesh. If it had been a little bit more, Anna would have died immediately. Anna narrowed her eyes and raised her gun. "Put it down. Let her go." Ronley's voice was stern. Anna wanted to say something, but she didn't dare to say anything and retreated. Qinshun looked at Ronley in the end. He was looking at her, and there was a depth in his eyes that she couldn't see. She still left and drove away. Anna walked into the master bedroom and touched Ronley's wound. Her voice was trembling. "Master, why did you allow her to do this to you?" She paused, and a murderous look appeared in her eyes. "I'll kill her." Ronley slapped her and said coldly, "If you dare to touch her, I'll make sure you don't have a single hair left." Anna was a little unwilling, but she didn't dare to say anything. She lowered her head and stood aside. Ronley was still standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, watching Qinshun's car drive away. He smiled bitterly. "Qinshun, there are many things that I can't choose. If I could choose, I would choose that year when the sunflowers bloomed in France, and I would choose to never leave you." He looked at her and clenched his fists. He believed that one day she would come back. Qinshun drove back to Lanyu's villa, but he hadn't returned yet. She went straight to the master bedroom upstairs to change into Lanyu's clothes. She threw the bloody pajamas and Ronley's shirt into the trash can. Before she could deal with them, Lanyu came back. Qinshun for a moment when he heard the footsteps. Then, Lanyu came back. He looked at her short hair, his black shirt, and a pair of sweatpants he had worn in college. He couldn't help but smile. "It fits. I told him." Qinshun didn't hide it. "He let me go, but he won't let me go." "I told him." Qinshun didn't hide it. "He let me go, but he won't let me go." "Lanyu, are you sure you want to be with me? It might be dangerous." Lanyu kissed her. "Of course I won't leave you, Qinshun." She smiled, grabbed his collar, and said softly, "You have to be careful, or I'll be worried." Ronley wouldn't do anything to her, but he wouldn't show mercy to Lanyu, so she was very worried. Lanyu nodded. "I've hired the best mercenary group. There are about 50 people. It shouldn't be a problem to protect my safety." Qinshun felt a little uneasy. She vaguely knew that Ronley didn't give up not only because of their relationship, but also because of her and York's research. Chapter 2861. She didn't dare to think too much about it. She only knew that she couldn't leave with Ronley. She had never been afraid of anything, but at this moment, she felt afraid. She hugged Lan Yu and whispered, Lan Yu, I'm afraid that my decision is wrong. How could it be? Lan Yu patted her back and said, Chun Chun, I can give up everything for you. Even if it's, before he could say the word life, his lips were covered by her. Don't say it. She pursed her lips and looked at him with a gentleness that he had never seen before. He smiled. All right, I won't say it. He reached out and held her in his arms, murmuring, Chun Chun, you must promise me not to give up. He looked at her, suddenly picked her up, and threw her on the bed like a madman. When he leaned over, Qin Shin covered his lips. Lan Yu, what are you doing? Lan Yu pressed her hands to the side of his body and bit open the buttons one by one, murmuring, in that case, I have to keep the Lan family's descendants. He was actually joking and wanted to be intimate with her. He saw that she was in a bad mood, so he wanted to comfort her. Qin Shin took it seriously. She struggled for a while, but couldn't break free, so she bit her lips and said, Lan Yu, stop fooling around. We can't have children. Why? He kissed her indiscriminately, but he could smell the faint smell of blood on her. He paused in his movements and looked at her with a deep gaze. Qin Shun bit her lips. At least not now. She softened her voice, broke free from his hands, and stroked his handsome face. We will have children in the future. Lan Yu, listen to me, okay? She was worried about his safety, and she didn't want to have a child at this time. Lan Yu looked at her for a while and smiled. Okay, he was just fooling around with her. Although he was a little embarrassed now, he had lost his interest. He got up and kissed her. I'm going to wash my hands and cook for you. What do you want to eat? Qin Shin closed his eyes and let him kiss him. He smiled and said, I like everything you cook. Lan Yu smiled. Seafood baked rice with a little more flavor and soup? Oh. She reached out and wrapped her arms around his neck. Do it well. His gaze became deeper. Actually, there are some things that I can do better. Do you want to try it tonight? He kissed her suggestively before walking into the bathroom. As soon as he entered the bathroom, before he could clean himself up, he received a text message on his phone. While he took a look, it was a photo. Qin Shun was lying on the bed with a man on top of him. They were kissing, and the scene was beautiful. Qin Shun was wearing spaghetti-strap pajamas, the very sexy kind. Lan Yu clenched his fists and looked in the direction of the bedroom. At this time, his gaze fell on the trash can again. He squatted down and picked up the pajamas from it. The pajamas with bloodstains and a man's shirt. It should be Romle's because the brand was so cool. He looked at it attentively. He didn't know when Qin Shun had stood at the door of the bathroom. She said calmly, Do you trust me? Lan Yu looked at her sideways, stood up, and handed the phone to her silently. Qin Shun only took a look at it and returned it to him. When Lan Yu took the phone, he grabbed her hand and pulled her into his arms. Qin Shun, I'm sorry. He kissed her hair and hugged her tightly. It won't happen again. I won't let you see these things again. Qin Shun was a little breathless from his hug, but she thought that he might have misunderstood something. Chapter 2862. Lan Yu hugged her even tighter. His face was buried in her hair, and he said in a low voice, Chun Shun, it's not like that. He wasn't an old-fashioned man who would think that it was the woman's fault for losing her innocence. On the contrary, it was his negligence, and he didn't protect her well. However, he was still very happy and thankful. Even if she didn't say it, he could almost imagine the situation at that time. She made his heart ache. Lan Yu hugged her for a long time before he said in a low voice, I'm going to cook. However, Qin Shin hugged him. I'll go with you. He looked at her and smiled. Okay. He carried her downstairs, naturally. Qin Shin sat in the dining room and watched him cook. She said softly, Lan Yu, I'm fine. I can protect myself. You don't have to blame yourself. She could tell that he was blaming himself. Lan Yu turned around and gave her a comforting smile. Then he said softly, I'll protect you in the future. He was stunned for a moment before he walked over and hugged her gently. He buried his face and whispered, Promise me. Chun Shun, don't go see him again. Qin Shin rested her face on his shoulder and said, I promise you. Lan Yu looked at her and pinched her face. He said softly, Good girl. Qin Shin smiled. Let's forget about Lan Yu, okay? She hugged him tightly. Nothing happened. Romle was injured. Lan Yu's body was a little stiff, but he didn't show it. He just smiled and said, I know. He cooked for her. After eating, he threw the clothes in the trash can upstairs. When he came back, he looked at her and said, "Don't you want to go shopping? I'll go with you." Qinshan nodded and followed him into the car. It was something that they had been looking forward to for a long time, but because of what happened today, they were a little depressed. Especially Qinshan. His expression was a little indifferent, and he didn't speak along the way. Lan Yu parked the car in the parking lot of shopping mall. He turned his head and whispered, "Chun-chun, if you're in a bad mood, let's do it another day." She shook her head. "No, let's go up." She hugged his arm and smiled at him. "I want to go shopping." She was wearing his black shirt today, which made her look a lot more casual, but still masculine. Lan Yu smiled and leaned over to kiss her. His voice was low and husky. "Okay." He unbuckled his seatbelt and got out of the car, then went around to the other side to open the door for her. After she got out of the car, Lan Yu held her hand. Qinshan glanced at him. Lan Yu said in a low voice, "Chun-chun, I don't care about those looks." He tightened his grip on her hand and walked into the elevator. From this moment on, he wanted to be with her and let the whole world know that he was with Qinshan. There were several people in the elevator. When they came in and out, everyone looked at them. Not only did Lan Yu not avoid her, but he also put her on his shoulder. Both of them were good-looking. This scene was not only not unbearable, but also very pleasing to the eye. Qinshan instinctively wanted to struggle, but Lan Yu held her down. "Chun-chun." She looked up at him. His hand held hers, and his eyes were full of determination. Qinshan smiled faintly and held his hand. At this moment, she felt loved. This was probably the craziest day for Qinshan. She went to the women's clothing department and tried on the women's clothes one by one. Chapter 2863. The waitress went from shock to amazement. She slowly relaxed. Casual wear, formal wear, pajamas, nothing was left out. Lan Yu's card was about to be maxed out. Qinshan leaned on his shoulder. "Women are scary when they squander. I just found out." After Lan Yu signed, he pinched her chin. "This is not as good as your previous set of cups." Qinshan tilted her head. "So men are scarier when they squander. What kind of man are you?" Lan Yu chuckled and pulled her downstairs. On the second floor, Qinshan could no longer move. Lan Yu looked at her. "What are you looking at?" Qinshan pointed at the wigs. "Will you buy them for me?" Lan Yu's gaze paused on the wigs. "Do you want them?" "Yes." She nodded vigorously, acting coquettishly. Lan Yu smiled. He looked at her, then at the wigs. Finally, he took one and put it on for her. It was still short, but it was very pretty. Once she put it on, she looked completely different. Lan Yu's gaze was a little dazed. After a long time, he pulled her to the mirror. "Is it weird?" Qinshan asked with a smile. Lan Yu didn't say anything. He just brought her to the mirror. In the mirror, she looked like herself. Qinshan held her breath. She had worn women's clothes before, but now she had changed her hairstyle. She couldn't believe it. "Qinshan, I like you like this," Lan Yu murmured. "Very cute." Qinshan tilted her head. "No one has ever said that I am cute. Then from now on, there will be..." He kissed her cheek. Every day, Qinshan hugged him and didn't say anything. She felt that this happiness and sweetness was unreal. She was afraid that in the blink of an eye, he would disappear and she would return to her original self. It turned out that being loved and truly embraced was such a blissful feeling. "Lan Yu, we will always be together, right?" she asked in a low voice. Lan Yu smiled. "Of course." Qinshan, on the other hand, felt very cold this night. They go home. In his luxurious king-sized bed, they made love to each other again and again, until late into the night. In the middle of the night, Lan Yu woke up, but there was no one beside him. He touched it, opened his eyes, and turned on the light. Qinshan was not in the bedroom. He put on a pair of pajama pants and walked out. He saw Qinshan standing by the window of the living room, smoking. She rarely smoked, except for drinking some coffee. She could be considered a person with extreme self-control. However, she was smoking in the middle of the night. Lan Yu knew that she had something on her mind, and it was related to Ronglei. He walked over and hugged her from behind, murmuring, "Why aren't you sleeping?" Qinshan tilted his head and smiled slightly. "What about you? Can't sleep either?" "No, it's because you're not by my side." He hugged her tightly and put his face on the side of her neck, kissing her. Qinshan put out the cigarette. "Let's sleep together." Lan Yu tilted his head and looked at her. Chun. "Yes, what's up?" Qinshan turned around and hugged his neck. Lan Yu thought for a moment and said slowly, "I may have a battle with Ronglei." Under her gaze, he smiled bitterly. "You should know the power of the Rong family in France and their businesses all over the world." Qinshan nodded. "I will ask my brother to help you." Chapter 2864. Lan Yu wasn't someone who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He didn't think that a grand Hyatt could stop a big French family, especially when Ronglei might have some unknown secrets. Qinshan buried her face in his neck and suddenly said in a trembling voice, "Lan Yu, I'm scared." She had never been so vulnerable. She had always been indifferent to life and death because she had experienced too much. But now, she was particularly afraid that he would be hurt, especially when this person was someone she used to care about so much. If Lan Yu was hurt, she would blame herself. Lan Yu held her in his arms and comforted her gently. "Don't be afraid, Qinshan. I'll be fine." She looked at him and asked, "You promise?" He smiled slightly and said, "I promise." Qinshan then went to bed with him, but she didn't feel sleepy when she lay in bed. He patted her back and comforted her while whispering, "Qinshan, don't smoke in the future." "You don't like it?" she asked softly and put her little face on his shoulder. "I thought you would say that I'm manly." Lan Yu didn't expect her to be naughty, so he patted her gently and said, "I mean, we will have children in the future. Smoking is not good for children." "Children?" Qinshan was stunned for a moment. They had taken precautions recently, so they wouldn't have children. Besides, she wouldn't allow them to have children now. Although she thought so, she still nodded and said, "Okay, I won't smoke in the future." He kissed her with satisfaction and said, "Go to sleep." Qinshan closed her eyes, but she didn't fall asleep for a long time. She was afraid that he would be worried, so she didn't open her eyes. Lan Yu naturally knew that, but it was good for her to close her eyes and rest. He went to smoke. The two of them had their own thoughts and didn't fall asleep until it was almost dawn. Later, Lan Yu became very busy. Even with Yi Muyun's support, Lan Yu was still surrounded by enemies. The Rong family's influence was everywhere, especially in Grand Hyatt's overseas business, which was beyond the reach of Boyi Group. Lan Yu became a flying man. Qinshan could only see him for 2 or 3 days a week, but she didn't complain and waited for him in the villa. Originally, she wanted to fly with him, but was rejected by Lan Yu. He said it was too hard. What Qinshan didn't know was that Lan Yu was thinking about something else. He was afraid that Ronglei would do something during his flight, and he was afraid that Qinshan would be implicated. He did not dare to put her in danger. Even if something happened to him, he wanted her to be well. This time, it wasn't him and Ronglei fighting over a woman. It was him, Lan Yu, who wanted to use his life to protect a woman. In his intuition, Ronglei not only wanted Qinshan, but also his ambition. Although he was tired of dealing with them, he did not suffer a crushing defeat. Just like that, a month passed, and the situation in B City became particularly tense because of the confrontation between the two sides. The Rong family used their diplomatic relations, and the pressure on Grand Hyatt Group doubled. If it weren't for the support of Zhou Chongwang and Yi Muyun, it would have collapsed long ago. At night, in the largest club in B City, in a private room, Lan Yu and Yi Muyun sat separately. Yi Muyun put a document in front of Lan Yu and said in a low voice, "I hope this will be useful to you." Lan Yu did not open it immediately, but lit a cigarette and smoked slowly. The Rong family promised Mr. Lin to fully support his re-election. Chapter 2865. He paused for a moment. This is the evidence of the collusion between the Rong family and the Lin family. The higher-ups have also noticed it. If the Lin family can be defeated, Ronglei will have one less backer in the country, and it will be much more difficult for him to do things. As he said this, he looked at Lan Yu. But it may be that your overseas career will be severely damaged. Lan Yu, have you thought about it? Lan Yu smiled. Qinshan doesn't care about that. His face was surprisingly gentle. She likes the dishes I cook and the paintings I draw. What I have now can also let her live her previous life, but now she likes to live a simple life. Yi Muyun agreed with this point. Recently, Qinshin seemed to have changed. He used to be extremely luxurious, but now he seemed to have returned to simplicity. He thought for a moment. Take these back and have a good look. As for the next step, think about it carefully. Yi Muyun's voice became a little hoarse. Rong Lei is a dangerous person. You have to be careful. Lan Yu nodded, picked up the things, and stood up. But when he held the door handle, he suddenly turned his head. Brother, after this matter is over, I want to marry Qinshin. Yi Muyun smiled lightly. As long as Qinshin is willing, it's fine. Lan Yu's eyes were a little warm. Thank you. Yi Muyun also stood up, walked over, and patted Lan Yu's shoulder. No, we should thank you. Thank you for giving Qinshin love. Thank you for not giving up on her. Others didn't know how much Lan Yu had done for Qinshin, but Yi Muyun was very clear about it. Lan Yu was moved. Because I love her. I have loved her since a long time ago. With that, he walked out. Half a month later, under Lan Yu's action, Mr. Lin fell from power and was imprisoned. Madame Lin suddenly fell ill. Lin Cece disappeared. She was nowhere to be seen. The Rong family's domestic enterprises withdrew one after another. Rong Lei suddenly lost his original status in B City and no longer had the ability to summon wind and rain. That night, Lan Yu returned to the villa. Qinshin was there. She was sleeping on her side. Her hair had grown a lot longer and was a little messy as it stuck to her face. And he realized that she had put on some weight. He smiled and pinched her face. Piggy. Qinshin opened his eyes. When he could see clearly, he reached out and hugged him. Lan Yu, you're back? I'm back. His voice was hoarse. It had been half a month since they last met. He leaned against the headboard and held her in his arms. Did you miss me? I want to. Qinshin propped himself up. But you never come back. She was very worried, but she didn't dare to say it out loud. Otherwise, he would be even more worried outside. Looking at him now, she found that he had lost a lot of weight. She reached out to touch his face and murmured, It's hard, isn't it? He took her hand and rubbed it a few times. Then he smiled. It's okay. Chin hugged him tightly. Lan Yu. Qinshin. He hugged her tightly. Everything is over. The higher-ups have already ordered Rong Lei to leave the country within 3 days. He won't have the chance to hurt you again. Qinshin smiled slightly. She knew how difficult it was. Mr. Lin had fallen. He was such a powerful figure. Speaking of which, if she hadn't saved Mr. Lin, Rong Lei might not have had the chance to be like this. Lan Yu probably knew what she was thinking. He smiled. If it wasn't Mr. Lin, there would be someone else. Qinshin thought of Lin Cece. She didn't know where she went. Chapter 2866. When Madame Lin came, Lan Yu avoided her, so Qinshin saw her. Qinshin made a cup of coffee for Madame Lin and put it in front of her. He smiled and said, Madam, you have lost a lot of weight recently. Madame Lin held the cup and looked at Qinshin with a haggard face. She said, Dr. Qin is a smart person. I think you know why I am here. Qinshin would not admit it directly. He just smiled and said, Lin Cece has not been here. Madame Lin's lips moved. She looked embarrassed. After a while, she said in a low voice, I am not here because of Cece. I am here for old Lin. Madame Lin said. Her tears finally fell. She knelt in front of Qinshin and said, Dr. Qin, I beg you to save old Lin again. He was just confused and cooperated with Rong Lei. Old Lin's body is not good. I am afraid that he will die if he is locked up. Qinshin's heart was touched. She stepped forward and helped Madame Lin up. She lowered her eyes and said, It's not that I don't want to help Madame, but I don't want to interfere in this matter. Moreover, Madame Lin should also know the cause and effect of this matter. If there is anything that offended you, it is because we were forced to do so. Madame Lin wiped her tears and said, I know. I don't really understand what's going on, but I've already advised old Lin to stay away from Rong Lei's evil spirit. But old Lin is already so old, yet he still wants to be in a higher position. I'm not blaming Mr. Lan. I'm just here to beg Dr. Qin to show mercy and let old Lin enjoy his old age. Even if it's in a small town, I promise we won't appear and be city again. Madame Lin was a beautiful woman. She was crying like a pear blossom in the rain. Qin Chun sighed in his heart. He was probably used to being a man. Now he even had tender feelings for the fairer sex. But she could not make the decision on this matter. A retired Mr. Lin wouldn't cause much trouble, but she still had to listen to Lan Yu when it came to the stakes. She did not agree, nor did she refuse. She only lightly said, I will talk to Lan Yu. Madame Lin should go back first. I will reply to you when there is news. When Madame Lin heard this, she sighed in her heart. She had always liked Qin Shen. Now that she knew he was a woman and treated her so politely, she felt even more reluctant. If Dr. Qin was a man and could be with Cece, she wouldn't have to worry so much. Madame Lin left with a touch of regret. Qin Shen sat there and drank the rest of the coffee. Lan Yu walked over and sat at the place where Madame Lin was sitting. Qin Shen looked at him. I'll make you another cup of coffee. All right. Lan Yu took out a cigarette from the pack on the coffee table and smoked it calmly. He smiled as he watched her skillfully brew coffee. Qin Shen, in the future, if you don't want to be a doctor, you might as well open a coffee shop. Qin Shen made the coffee and smiled. You don't like my profession? He shook his head. No, it's just that I think you like to make coffee more. Qin Shen still smiled. Aren't you afraid that with my pickiness, I will spend all your money in less than half a year? Thinking about it, if she sold a cup of coffee for a few thousand yuan, wouldn't he go bankrupt? Lan Yu smiled. It's not that bad. He walked over, put the cigarette in his mouth, and hugged her from behind. Chapter 2867. Did you say so? Qin Shen smiled, and then concentrated on making a cup of excellent coffee for him. Lan Yu took a sip and looked at her. Very good. Qin Shen smiled and sat down. She hesitated for a moment and said, You heard what Madame Lin said just now. What are you going to do? Lan Yu put down the cup in his hand and held her slender hand. He rubbed it a few times and said, Are you soft-hearted? Qin Shen shook her head. No, I just think that if Mr. Lin is no longer in danger, it is better to do him a favor. After all, he is no longer there, but some forces in the circle are still there. It is better to leave some leeway. Lan Yu fixed his eyes on her and said slowly, It is impossible for him to return to the center of power. It will not hinder us. Qin Shen, what you said is also good. Leave some leeway. Qin Shen smiled. He looked at her in different look and pinched her face. Why are you not happy? Didn't you ask for it on behalf of others? She was still indifferent. You also said that I asked for it on behalf of others. If you want to get benefits, you may have to ask Madame Lin or Lin Cece. As long as you don't think Madame Lin is old and you don't think Lin Cece is mischievous, I have no opinion. Lan Yu stared at her. I think you are the one who is more and more mischievous. Qin Shen snorted softly. You probably didn't notice Madame Lin's regretful expression when she saw me. She still wants you to be her son-in-law? Lan Yu looked at her and then held her in his arms. His hands were unruly. Let me check if you have the hardware facilities. Qin Shen was afraid of tickles. She couldn't resist it even when she pushed against him. While they were fooling around, her shirt was pulled down by him, and a large area of white skin was revealed. Lan Yu's eyes were slightly deep. Qin Shen looked at him and pulled her clothes. Don't mess around. I have something serious to tell you. Lan Yu chuckled and kissed her lips. This is also a serious matter. Just as he was about to act recklessly, the door to the living room was pushed open. It was none other than Lan Yu's mother. Lan Yu's mother stared blankly at them fooling around, a little stunned. Although Qin Shen still had short hair and was still wearing a shirt, she felt that she was a girl of first sight. Moreover, it was an excessively beautiful young lady. Blue mother's eyes were flashed, old face a red. I'll go downstairs to cook for you. When she came, how could Lan Yu continue to do it? He coughed softly and said, Mom, I'll go. He paused for a moment. Have a chat with Qin Shen. He could tell that his mother wasn't against it, so he spoke up at the right time. Blue mother is a little uncomfortable. Qin Shen straightened his clothes, his face a little hot. Let's go downstairs together. She thought for a moment. Auntie, would you like some coffee? Lan Yu knocked her on the head and said, Don't do that. Go and make a cup of tea. Blue mother thought that Qin Shen would be angry. She didn't know that Qin Shen just looked at her son and went downstairs to make tea. She looked at Lan Yu, who was tidying up his clothes, and asked quietly, "Can this hospital inject estrogen? I think this girl is very different." Lan Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Mom, Chun is a girl. I just like to wear neutral clothes." Blue Mother couldn't help but complain. "Where's the neutral clothes? That's men's clothes." Chapter 2868. Blue Mother said, and asked uneasily, "Can you have a child?" Lan Yu glanced at his mother. "I've already said that Chun is a girl. She's no different from other girls." Blue Mother listened to him, also a little relieved, sighed. "You are like this. I am also satisfied. Don't ask your wife to be more filial, as long as you like it and live a happy life." Lan Yu smiled and went downstairs with his mother. Chen's coffee is good, and the tea is naturally good. Blue Mother looks at her movements, which is really pleasing to the eye. Moreover, at this time, Chen looks a little like a noble son. She sighs in her heart. If Lan Ting is here, Chen is also her ideal son-in-law candidate. At the thought of her daughter, she was relieved about Lan Yu's affairs. Now, they have only one son, and the most important thing is that his son is happy. Blue Mother drank the tea made by Chen. Chen didn't look like a little daughter-in-law at all. It was always light, but Blue Mother was also at ease. When she came, she didn't prepare. When she drank tea, she remembered it. So she took off an emerald bracelet on her hand and put it in the palm of Chen. "I don't think you necessarily like this, but it's a little gift from me." Lan Yu went to cook. Chen and Blue Mother got along in private. She looked at the bracelet in her hand. It was of excellent quality. It was a good thing at first sight. She smiled. "I like it very much." With that, she put it on her hand. This move, in fact, is not flattering, very natural, but Blue Mother is happy. The more she looks at it, the more she likes it. In addition to the change of Chen, there is another point. Huang Xia, who she looked for last time, is so crazy. She heard from Lan Yu's father that she even drove to hit Chen and Lan Yu. Then she pretended to save them. She didn't know that she put one of her legs on it. This is called evil people have evil retribution. Blue Mother didn't expect that the person she had seen all her life had made a mistake and liked such a madman. If Lan Yu married her, would he still have a peaceful life? Chen was the best. He was calm and rational. Chen turns on the TV to let the Blue Mother watch, and he takes a magazine to accompany her. There is no extra words, but it is warm. If in the past, Blue Mother must feel that she has been neglected, but now she is not sure about Chen's temperament. Knowing that this is the highest level of treatment, she is also satisfied. However, while she was satisfied, she was secretly cursing herself for being so cheap. Blue Mother's psychological activities are particularly rich. Chen looked over. "Auntie, do you need anything else?" No, very good," Blue Mother quickly said. Chen smiled and didn't say anything else. She was about to look down at the magazine, but Blue Mother couldn't help but ask, "Chen, when are you and Lan Yu going to get married?" "You are still young, but Lan Yu is not young. He should have been a father for a long time when he was in his early 30s. Chen blinked. Didn't he become a father long ago? Isn't Ishu his son? Her son's dark past was dug up, and as a mother, Mother Lan didn't look good either. Her face darkened for a long time before she said, "That's your older brother's child. Chen, it's not like you don't know. Lan Yu and Shui sleep in separate beds." This was his explanation, but he was cursing Lan Yu in his heart. What was he thinking back then? How could he raise someone else's wife and raise someone else's child as his own? And the child's mother didn't even know. Chapter 2869. Blue Mother didn't know that this was actually Chen's skin. Chen looked at Blue Mother's appearance, didn't say anything, and went to read the magazine again. Blue Mother was so excited just now that she didn't respond. She was also quite lost. She looked at it for a long time. Lan Yu stood at the door with a fruit plate, looked at them getting along, smiled, and walked over. Putting down the fruit plate, he looked at his mother. "Mom, you haven't tasted Chen's poisonous tongue." Blue Mother gave her son a white look. "Of course I haven't tasted it. I don't kiss her." After that, Blue Mother was very proud. After Lan Yu was stunned, he smiled. Qin Shan was a little annoyed and stared at him. Lan Yu ignored her, but looked at his mother. Chun Shun and I will get married soon. As for the date, you can go back and discuss it with Dad, and then look at the yellow calendar. It's okay within a month. A month? Blue Mother opened her mouth. I'm afraid it won't work. It will take 3 months in a hurry. Lan Yu's fingers stroked Qin Chen's abdomen. What if there is? Blue Mother was stunned again. Yes. Qin Chen slapped his hand away. Don't talk nonsense. There's no such thing. Lan Yu leaned over and whispered. There's no need to take measures from tonight. It will be soon. Do you think you can wait for 3 months? Qin Chen gave him a white look and then felt a little uncomfortable. Is she here now to discuss marriage with him? She doesn't seem to have agreed to marry him yet. Lan Yu smiled and held her hand. Don't go back on your word. Qin Chen, I want to get married. Qin Chen bit his lip. Blue Mother coughed softly. I'll go to the bathroom. Tell me when you think about it. Then she said discontentedly, young people nowadays don't discuss such a big thing as marriage with their parents. Blue Mother's tone is quite lost. The Blue family hasn't had a happy event for a long time. She hopes to have a lively scene. She doesn't want to aggrieve her son or Qin Shun. Besides, wouldn't it take a few months for the hair to grow out? If the son married a man at the wedding, would the scene still look good? Mother Lan thought about it and was worried. So she turned around and asked, Chun Shun, are you going to wear a wedding dress? Just as she asked, she saw her son and the girl kissing. Blue Mother's old face is red. These damned children really can't wait a moment longer. Blue Mother, still left quietly, went back to discuss with her wife about the marriage and also wanted to go to the Qin family to propose marriage another day. Both sides were respectable families, so they couldn't be careless about this matter. Otherwise, people would say that the Lan family didn't understand etiquette. Blue Mother left and was found half an hour later. Qin Shun left Lan Yu's lips and said in a low voice, Did your mom eat something bad? She hasn't come out yet. Lan Yu held her face and continued to kiss her as he murmured, Then we'll discuss it after she comes out of the bathroom. Before that, don't talk and let me kiss you properly. Qin Shun is speechless. Isn't he tired of kissing? It turns out that men are never tired of doing these things. As a result, after kissing for 2 hours, he found that his mother had left, and he carried her back upstairs directly. When everything calmed down, Qin Shun lay in his sweaty arms and poked his heart. I think we should move to live with your parents after we get married. Otherwise, I'll die of exhaustion if this continues for a long time. Chapter 2870. Qin Shun chuckled and didn't say anything. She just rested in his arms. Everything had become so beautiful. She became more and more beautiful day by day, as if she was a different person. Qin Shun didn't go to work at the hospital anymore. She focused on learning how to arrange flowers and how to make tea at home because she had promised Lan Yu that she would quit drinking coffee. He was so overbearing. He told her to open a cafe, but didn't allow her to drink coffee at the same time. But thinking about it, she seemed to be drinking less recently. She often boiled coffee and threw it away. Qin Shun put a rose in the vase and stuck out his tongue. Fortunately, his family was rich enough to be able to afford to lose. She had a lot of shares in King Entertainment and didn't have to worry about her life. But Lan Yu gave her a black gold card for her daily expenses. He said that he was supporting her and that she could spend it however she wanted. Qin Shun had seen it before. The amount was enough to open 50 high-end cafes. She was flattered but accepted it calmly. She had to serve Mr. Lan happily at night. This kind of life was very slow. She woke up naturally in the morning and had breakfast ready. He had left at 8, but he waited until she woke up to give her a good morning kiss and eat breakfast with her before going to work. Of course, she also knew that he went jogging early in the morning. Thinking of this, Qin Shun's face turned slightly red. He was a man who didn't sleep for more than a few hours a night and exercised the entire night. How could he have the strength to jog early in the morning after exhausting so much energy? Although she had doubts, she didn't dare to ask. She would only be asking for trouble. Qin Shun smiled and remembered that they had an appointment to take wedding photos at 5 o'clock today. Recently, he had been quite busy, so he only took indoor photos. As for the outdoor photos, he would take them for her during their honeymoon. Qin tidied up the vase and let out a long sigh. She liked her current life. It had only been a few days, and she had even forgotten that she was a doctor. She smelled the roses. The fragrance of flowers smelled good, much better than the smell of disinfectant in the hospital. Just as she was about to make some simple dishes, her phone rang. She picked it up. Lan Yu, the person on the other side, was silent for a long time. Qin was a little surprised. He looked at the caller ID. It was an unknown number. Just as she was about to hang up, a voice came from the other side. Qin, it's me. Qin's heart sank. Naturally, she would not forget this voice. It was Ronglei. She silently calculated in her heart. Today was the last day that Ronglei would stay in B City. He had to leave tomorrow. Thinking of this, she relaxed slightly. What's the matter? Ronglei's voice was gentle. Qin, I want to see you one last time. Qin was silent for a while before he sighed. Ronglei, there's no need for that, is there? Did you not see me for the last time? Ronglei's voice was low and hoarse. Qin, you must hate me very much. No. Qin thought for a moment and said, Ronglei, it's just that so much time has passed. We're no longer the same as before. Ronglei smiled very softly. I've always been like this. Qin, you know very well that it's only you who has changed. His voice was slow. It's just that you fell in love with someone else. That's all. Qin was a little sad. She did not want to become such a hostile relationship with Ronglei, but it seemed that he had gone to the extreme. In the end, they still became strangers. Chapter 2871. She didn't deny it because she did like Lan Yu. A real-life Lan Yu. And Ronglei, she murmured, Ronglei, you are suitable to be admired, and what I need is a life. If Ronglei appeared again, he was not the person who was high and mighty, and he was still like when he was 20 years old. Her choice might not be like this. Her voice became softer. If I say I'm sorry can make you feel better, then I'm sorry. Ronglei's voice became cold and hard. Do you really love him so much? Are you willing to exchange everything for him? Qin lowered his eyes. Yes. On the other side, Ronglei didn't speak again, just breathing lightly. Just like when they called each other when they were young, when they were angry, they didn't talk or hang up the phone, just breathing lightly. After a long time, Qin said in a low voice, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. Ronglei, have a safe journey. This was the last blessing. After she hung up the phone, she was stunned for a long time, and also looked at the phone for fear that it would ring again. About a minute later, the phone really rang. She was a little scared and stared at it. However, this time it was Lan Yu who called. She looked at the familiar number and was relieved, and her tone softened. Lan Yu, have you had lunch? Lan Yu sat on the swivel chair in the office, holding the phone in one hand and unbuttoning the second button of his shirt with the other. There was an indescribable joy in his expression. Qin infected his mood. Not yet. I'm going to do it. He thought for a moment. Do you need me to come back to accompany you? She smiled. No, I'm not so clingy, but I like to be clingy. He murmured in a low voice, also with a hint. There's a meeting at 2:00 in the afternoon, and it's about 3 hours at noon. Don't you think it's a waste of 3 hours, Mrs. Lan? Qin snorted softly. You can use these 3 hours to think about how to earn more money to satisfy me. Lan Yu rubbed his forehead and said with surprise, I haven't satisfied Mrs. Lan yet? Looks like I'll have to work harder tonight. Qin couldn't take it anymore and hung up the phone. However, her face was still a little hot. She placed the vase at the head of the bed, admired it for a while, and then went to prepare some food. She knew a little about some simple dishes. At 3:00 in the afternoon, she wanted to go out and buy some skincare products. She didn't use these before, but now she wanted to take care of her skin, especially since Lan Yu seemed to have a preference for soft skin. As his wife, she had to fulfill this small wish of his. Qin had changed into a shirt-style dress. It was not considered soft and beautiful, but it was long enough to her knees, revealing a straight and slender calf. Her skin was very white and fine, so clear that almost no pores could be seen. Her hair was slightly longer, and she looked very feminine. No one would mistake her for a man again. There was no doubt that she was also beautiful. She put on her sunglasses, drove a white Bentley out, and walked into the shopping mall next to the wedding dress studio. Originally, she wanted to find Cher, but thinking about her elder brother, she just thought about it and gave up. And Chin Mu. Forget it, Chun Mu was pregnant now, and it was not convenient. Chin Chin shopped alone. She was not a hesitant person, so she bought what she wanted to buy in half an hour. She raised her hand and saw that it was still early, so she called Lan Yu again. He said that he might be a little late for a meeting. Chapter 2872. Chin Chin looked up and was stunned. It was Rong Lei. Looking at her dazed eyes, Rong Lei smiled and said, "You refused to see me, so I could only come to see you." His eyes were burning as he looked at her face and her body. She had become very beautiful. She was no longer the cold and noble Dr. Chin, but a beautiful woman. Did Lan Yu change her, or did she change for Lan Yu? No matter which one it was, it made Rong Lei very uncomfortable. When he looked at her, Chin Chin narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at him defensively. "What do you want?" Rong Lei smiled faintly. He looked at Chin Chin and said, "Chun Chun, when did our relationship become so hostile?" At this time, the waiter brought the milk over. "Miss, your coffee." After putting it down, he deliberately looked at Chin Chin a few more times. Chin Chin took a sip of milk, looked up again, and said softly, "Rong Lei, you could have lived in my beautiful memory for the rest of my life. You said that I hate you very much. Yes, in a sense, I should hate you." She smiled bitterly. "Since you're wrong, isn't it better to be wrong to the end? It's not fair for you to treat me like this." "What about me?" Rong Lei's voice was a little tense. "Is it fair for you to treat me like this? I still love you, and you love someone else." Chin Chin's eyes were a little hot. She looked at the man in front of her. Really, this man used to be everything in her dreams. For so many years, she loved him so much, but now he said that he loved her. She smiled softly. "You said that you love me. Why don't I feel anything?" Rong Lei held her hand. "Come with me. Chin Chin, you will remember your love for me." Chin Chin raised his eyes and looked at him. Their eyes met. She slowly withdrew her hand and drank a glass of milk. She said, "Rong Lei, this milk is warm. It's like the feeling I get from living life. It's also like the feeling I get from Lan Yu. I don't know if I love him, but I want to live with him. I want to get married, have children, and live the most ordinary life." Rong Lei tightens his thin lips and lowers his voice. "But you are Chin Chin. You are destined to be extraordinary." "Maybe, but that was in the past." Chin Chin smiled. "Rong Lei, no matter why you came back to find me, I wish you happiness in the future." As she spoke, she gently sipped the glass of milk and slowly got up. "Don't look for me anymore. It's impossible between us." After a few steps, his tense voice came from behind. "Chun Chun, do you think you can escape? Unless you don't care about the team in New York, don't care about Lan Yu's life or death." Chin Chin's body froze. Rong Lei slowly approached her, and his body sticks to her back. "You should know why I came to find you. Chun Chun, only you and I can reverse this world. You know too well that as long as I want, Lan Yu will return to his vegetative state 2 years ago. At that time, you weren't there. Will he always be in a vegetative state?" When her body stiffens, he chuckles. "Are you sure you want to marry him? Chin Chin, you love him. Are you going to harm him? What do you want?" Chin Chin's voice is a little depressed. Rong Lei's slender fingers caress her earlobe. His voice is charming. "You know, I want you to come back to me." Chapter 2873. "That's impossible." Chin Chin slowly turned her head. She looked at Rong Lei and slapped him. He didn't dodge, nor did he fight back. He looked at her as if he was looking at an unreasonable child. But only they knew who was making a fuss. Chin Chin said word by word, "Rong Lei, if you dare to hurt him, I guarantee that you will die a terrible death." Her tone became more and more determined. "Even if the whole world is buried with me, I won't let you go." Rong Lei didn't get angry. Instead, he smiled. "He has finally become your weakness, hasn't he, Chun Chun?" There was a hint of madness in his eyes. "It's good that you fall in love with him. At least you will leave with me obediently. In your dreams, Qin Shan raised her chin slightly, and Rong Lei saw a hint of killing intent in her eyes. There was also a hint of coldness in his eyes. She actually wanted to kill him for Lan Yu. Was that man that important to her? Rong Lei chuckled. You will take the initiative to find me. Chun Chun, I'll wait for you in France, he said as he leaned over and kissed her cheek. Qin Shan's heart was pounding violently. She gritted her teeth. I will kill you. You can try. He smiled. His smile was very beautiful, like the most handsome demon. Qin Shan narrowed her eyes. If they weren't outside, she might have gotten rid of Rong Lei directly. Perhaps she would feel uneasy for the rest of her life. But if it could be exchanged for Lan Yu's safety, she felt that it was worth it. Rong Lei stared into her eyes, chuckling softly as he walked away, step by step. Qin Shan stood where she was, her eyes a little dazed. At the same time, Rong Lei tapped on his phone a few times, and Lan Yu received a few wonderful photos. There was a photo of Qin Shan and Rong Lei looking at each other. A photo of Rong Lei holding Qin Shan's hand. The angle of the capture was very good, and the look in his eyes was deep. Lan Yu stood at the top of the office and watched silently for a long time before calling Qin Shan. Qin Shan's phone rang many times before he picked it up. His voice was still a little hoarse. Lan Yu, are you here? We can leave soon. Qin Shan, are you still at home? Do you need me to pick you up? His tone carried a slight smile, but there was no trace of smile on his face. Qin Shan was a little absent-minded. After a long time, he finally said, No, I'm outside. I bought some skincare products. Now, in a cafe. No, I'm alone. One person. Lan Yu slowly put down his phone. He looked outside. He knew that the photos were sent by Rong Lei, and he also knew that he shouldn't be calculative about the relationship between Qin Shan and Rong Lei, but he was still a little unaccustomed to it. After all, she had been another person's shadow for 12 years. That kind of feeling, how could he compare? Sometimes when he woke up at night and hugged her, he felt a little unreal. Did she really choose him and give up Rong Lei? But he had never asked. She agreed to get married, so their marriage took its course. Lan Yu stood by the window and smoked a few cigarettes. Then he took his coat and went out. He didn't want her to wait, and he didn't want to think too much. He didn't want to be tricked by Rong Lei. Tomorrow, he would let someone watch Rong Lei leave this land. Lan Yu got into the car, and his face was a little solemn. And Qin Shan had been waiting for him. When he arrived, Qin Shan had already changed into her wedding dress. She stood there as beautiful as a painting. Chapter 2874. Qin Shan smiled faintly and returned a kiss on his cheek. Then, she looked at herself in the mirror with him. Do I look good? He grunted, very beautiful. Qin Shan reached out to touch his handsome face and said in a low voice, Lan Yu, go change. He smiled, patted her hand, and quickly went to change into a new set of clothes. When he came out, Qin Shan was already done with her makeup. It was a fresh look, but it was stunning enough. He had always known that she was beautiful, but he had never thought that she could be this beautiful. Lan Yu stood there and walked over slowly. He held her hand and kissed it. Qin Shan, you're so beautiful. The photographer was also a little excited. He had already prepared to complete the perfect work tonight. Just thinking about it made him excited. Qin Shan and Lan Yu stood together. Her head was resting on Lan Yu's shoulder. She smiled naturally. This was probably what it was like to be married to love. The photographer asked them to change a few sets of actions, and the shoot went smoothly. It was completed in about an hour. He looked at the photo and smiled. It almost doesn't need to be fixed. It's perfect. Qin Shan and Lan Yu looked at each other and smiled. They went back to the changing room to change. When they went out, it wasn't too late yet. Qin Shan said that she wanted to eat skewers. She said that she hadn't eaten in B City yet. Lan Yu carried his coat and put one hand on her shoulder. You really want to eat? Qin Shan nodded. I want to eat. Lan Yu smiled. Walk from here to the street ahead. There are a few good barbecue shops. I'll take you there. He reached out to pinch her nose and smiled dotingly. When he turned around, his face was a little gloomy. Qin Shan saw it and asked absent-mindedly, Lan Yu, what's wrong? Lan Yu shook his head and smiled. Nothing. I'm just a little tired. He squeezed her hand suggestively. Qin Shin stuck his tongue out at him and ran in front of him. At this moment, she was completely different from her previous self. Instead, she was a girl immersed in love. She turned to look at him. Lan Yu, are you too tired to run? Lan Yu looked around. Many people were already looking at her. On one hand, it was because of her beauty. On the other hand, it was because her words were too ambiguous. He smiled, took a few quick steps, and held her in his arms. Don't run too fast, Qin Shin. He lowered his voice. I'm afraid I won't be able to catch up. Qin Shin looked at him and curled up the corners of his mouth. He looked very happy. Lan Yu couldn't help but ask, Qin Shin, is this the life you want? She thought for a moment. I want another child. Her expression was relaxed like never before. She looked at him and smiled. Lan Yu, let's have a child after we get married. I want to have a child. It should be very fulfilling to bring him up. Lan Yu stopped walking. He reached out and hugged her waist. He said in a low voice, let's wait for 2 more years. You're still young. Qin Shin looked down at herself. Are you talking about my Xiong Xiao? He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's age. His voice became a little emotional. Qin Shin, you're only 24 years old. I also want to play for 2 more years. Her face turned red. What do you mean by play? She wouldn't let him play. She walked in front with a red face. Lan Yu followed behind unhurriedly. It was her angry look, but it was also the look of love. Lan Yu held his forehead with his palm. What else did he have to worry about? She clearly looked like she was in love. Qin Shin wasn't a person who would compromise. She was very straightforward. If she said she liked him, she really liked him. He no longer had any doubts. Lan Yu deleted those photos as he walked. He no longer had any doubts. He caught up with her and held her hand. Chapter 2875. Qin Shin glanced at him. Are you going to apologize to me? If you mean that I'm going to play for 2 years, then I probably won't say it. He smiled and kissed her face. Qin Shin complained, shameless. Didn't you say that you want a child? Lan Yu lit a cigarette with one hand and took a puff. How can I want a child if I want to be shameless? Qin Shin couldn't stand it anymore. Fortunately, they arrived at the barbecue restaurant, and he took her in. Qin Shin had never been to a place like this before. Everything was ordered by Lan Yu. When they got in, Qin Shin's expression was very cute in his eyes. She had always been a big eater, so he ordered 5 servings for the 2 of them. Even so, Qin Shin still finished it very quickly. Lan Yu drank 2 glasses of beer and frowned. It's almost done. If I eat too much, I'll have a stomachache. Qin Shin begged for a long time before he ordered a few more dishes. After eating this time, she didn't make a scene again. Instead, they walked on the street to digest the food. Qin Shin raised their hands and smiled. Lan Yu, don't you think we look like an old married couple? Lan Yu looked at her and said slowly, you look like me in bed but not outside. She glared at him and he smiled. Let's go. I'll take you to the movies. He looked at her sideways and said, but he pulled her into his arms and kissed her gently. After a long time, he gently left her lips and pressed his forehead against hers. He whispered, Qin Shin, I'm not dreaming, right? We're really together, aren't we? Qin Shin's eyes shimmered. Her answer to him was to raise her arm and touch her red lips. The night wind blew away the smell of alcohol and replaced it with his strong, manly scent. Qin Shin looked down and smiled when he looked at him again. I'll call you brother from now on, okay? Why? There was a hint of a smile in his long and narrow eyes. Qin Shin took his hand and walked forward. His voice was a little soft. Think about it. You're so much older than me. Or do you want me to call you uncle? Lan Yu patted her on the back. Naughty. You don't like it? Qin Shin tilted her head to look at him. Her eyes were like countless little stars, beautiful and dazzling. Lan Yu stepped forward and covered her eyes with his hand. His voice was a little hoarse. Qin Shin. She nodded and turned to look at him. Brother. Lan Yu held her in his arms and sighed slightly. It's okay. I just wanted to wake you up. She struggled a little, but in return, he hugged her even more tightly. He kissed her hair and murmured, so there is more happiness than happiness. Qin Shin smiled and stayed in his arms. How many children are we going to have in the future? Lan Yu pulled her shoulders and looked at her. Children are more important than me? Can they satisfy you more than me? Qin Shin bit her lips. Shameless. Lan Yu held her hand and walked forward. There was a gentle smile on his handsome face. This was one of the rare times when he and Qinshin were not in bed, but he still felt very satisfied. It was actually not bad to be an old married couple. When they arrived at the cinema on the 4th floor of the square, Qinshin wanted to watch a romance film, but Mr. Lan chose a horror film. He thought that Qinshin would curl up in his arms and scream, but the film was about a murderer dissecting a human body. The scene made Lan Yu very uncomfortable. Qinshin was holding the popcorn and watching it in a daze. When they left the cinema, Lan Yu hugged the trash can and threw up. Chapter 2876. Lan Yu vomited again. His face turned green from all the vomiting. He looked at Qinshin with a touch of sadness in his eyes. Qinshin smiled and handed him the water. Lan Yu took it and cleaned himself up. When he straightened up, his face was still a little pale. Qinshin looked at him. "Do you want me to carry you?" "No, you could drive later." He closed his eyes and pulled her into his arms. She didn't struggle but complained in a low voice, "Lan Yu, you smell so bad." He smiled and suddenly buried his face in her neck. "Qinshin, have you ever been afraid?" She didn't understand, so she said softly. Lan Yu let out a deep breath. "When facing those limbs and opening their internal organs, have you ever been afraid?" He added, "It's really disgusting." Qinshin thought for a moment and said slowly, "I've been afraid and disgusted. After the first operation, I didn't eat for 3 days. I was so hungry that my blood sugar was too low. There was nothing I could do. I would vomit if I ate. Then I gradually got used to it." She smiled. "It's a process." Then she looked at Lan Yu. "What about you? Did you blush when you drew a woman for the first time?" Mr. Lan wouldn't answer this question directly. Smart men would avoid it, and he was no exception. Qinshin didn't get an answer for a long time. She reached out and poked his heart. "I'm asking you, did you have a physiological reaction?" "Huh?" Lan Yu smiled and rubbed her short hair. "I don't remember the past, but I did when I drew for you last time." Shameless. She blushed and walked forward. He took a step forward and held her hand. "Are you shy?" "No." She made a face, and Lan Yu was a little lost for a moment. Qinshin took a few steps back and saw that he was still in the same place. She couldn't help but ask, "Lan Yu?" Lan Yu smiled faintly. His expression was particularly gentle in the dark. He said slowly, "Qinshin, you're very good." Qinshin pursed his lips, chuckled, and ran over to hug him. She thought that this was what happiness looked like. On the way back, she was the one driving, and Lan Yu sat beside her with his eyes closed. She thought that he must be exhausted after working for a whole day and spending so much time with her at night, so she didn't wake him up and let him rest. However, men were all immoral. She knew when she got out of the car. The man who had been resting suddenly opened his eyes. "We've arrived?" Qinshin nodded and got out of the car. "Take a shower and go to bed early." He had been very busy these days, and even their sex life had been a lot less. Qinshin was dispensable, mainly because when he was energetic, she would be very tired. However, as soon as she finished speaking, her hand was caught and the man took her upstairs. "Let's bathe together." Qinshin coughed lightly. "Can I refuse?" Lan Yu picked her up. "You want to refuse?" "Hmm?" She smiled and hugged his neck. "I'm afraid you'll be too tired." "In a while, you can see if I'm tired." He kissed her lips, his voice low. A few minutes later, in the bathroom, Qinshin looked at him, bit his lip, and refused in a low voice. "Can you brush your teeth?" Lan Yu was stunned for a moment, then angrily went to brush his teeth. 10 minutes later, he grabbed her and kissed her. Being kissed by him, Qinshin suddenly thought of something. Her period hadn't come for a long time. Chapter 2877. Qinshin was stunned. Lan Yu kissed her lips. "What's wrong?" She looked at him in a daze and smiled faintly. "Oh, it's nothing." She put her arms around his neck, and there was a trace of panic in her eyes. But soon, she didn't have time to panic. He pressed her against the bathroom wall and kissed her. Lan Yu kissed her deeply and murmured, "Qinshin." Qinshin put her arms around his neck and buried herself in his arms. Her voice trembled a little. "Lan Yu, I'm very happy." She tilted her head back and looked at him. She had been alone for so long and so lonely. Now she knew that life could be so perfect. She lay in his arms, smiling, and tears flashed. Now she knew that he wasn't perfect, but she liked him like this. It turned out that the little things they had together were happiness and love. But she had once pushed everything away with her own hands. Lanyu, why didn't you give up on me? With a touch of passion in her eyes, she put her hand on his shoulder and asked seriously. Lanyu thought about it seriously, kissed her, and murmured, I thought about it. So that time with Lin Cece, before he finished speaking, Qin Shin bit his lips. That's why you rolled into bed with Lin Cece, isn't it? Lanyu chuckled. I didn't do anything to her. He whispered in her ear. We didn't even get up that time. Qin Shin blushed and looked away. I don't believe it. You don't believe it? His smile deepened, and his body pressed against hers. Tell me, with you, how could I be interested in other women? Huh? Qin Shin bit her lip and stared at him. But at this moment, he deliberately took advantage of her. She let out a muffled groan and instinctively tried to struggle, but he still succeeded. Because of what he said just now, he was a little naughty tonight. From the bathroom to the bed in the bedroom, he tortured her for a long time, and then he became a little rough. Qin Shan remembered that she didn't have her period, so she pushed his shoulder. It hurts a little. Be gentle. Lanyu was stunned. Although his body was hot, he still stopped nervously and checked her. What's wrong? Am I too heavy, huh? Qin Shan couldn't listen to it anymore. She held his shoulder. Don't say it. Lanyu kissed her face. Then I'll end it, huh? He pressed her down and only dared to finish. When everything calmed down, his whole body was covered in hot sweat. He took a deep breath and helped her clean up. He wasn't a particularly gentle person in bed, but he was very considerate after. He made her feel loved, and it wasn't just a simple love between a man and a woman. Qin Shin lay on his side, feeling his attentive care. After he finished, Lanyu leaned over and asked in a low voice, Does it still hurt? Do you want to buy some medicine? She shook her head, pulled him down, and hugged him gently. She murmured, I just want to hug you now. He looked at her. At this moment, Qin Shun had a fragile beauty. He smiled and said, Our Chun Shun seems to have become smaller. Thinking about the past, especially when he woke up for the first time after the car accident, he was such a beautiful and sharp-tongued male doctor. But now she was so soft in his arms, lying in his bed. It was incredible. Lanyu lay on his side and held her in his arms. She was very tall, over 170, but he was 184, so she still looked petite in his arms. Chapter 2878. Such a night was peaceful and beautiful. Lanyu, will we be happy like this for the rest of our lives? Her voice was very low, and she rested her head on his shoulder. For the rest of our lives. With that, she raised her head. When I'm old, will you think the young girl is better? Lanyu pressed her little head in his arms, and his face was very gentle. I'm so much older than you. When you're old, I'll be old. He didn't say anything nice, because there was no need. Time would prove everything. Qin Shin didn't speak anymore, lying in his arms and looking at the dark night outside. In her heart, there was a touch of uneasiness, and she gently put her fingers on her lower abdomen. The next day, after Lanyu went to work, Qin Shin got up. He prepared breakfast for her, and she quietly finished it. The phone on the table rang, and the number was strange yet familiar. She recognized that it was Rong Lei's phone. Qin Shun pursed her lips and reached out to pick it up. After a moment of silence, Rong Lei said in a low voice, Chun Shun, I'm leaving. Okay. Qin Shun nodded, and then she didn't know what to say. She and Rong Lei seemed to have nothing to say. Love or not, it seemed to be a matter of a moment. Rong Lei's voice became a little hoarse. I didn't expect that when I came back it would be like this. Qin, I always thought that you would love me forever. After a while, Qin Shin said softly, I'm sorry. Rong Lei said goodbye and hung up. Qin Shin looked at the phone for a long time and then hung up. After a long time, she took the car key and went out. She didn't go to Xingyuan, but chose a private hospital. When she picked up the pregnancy test, she froze. She was pregnant. She was sure that the child was Lan Yu's, because she had no other man except him. However, she really didn't know when it happened because they all took precautions. There was only one time when she took the morning after pill. Shin looked at it for a long time before he took out his phone and dialed Lan Yu's number. But no one picked up his phone. She then remembered that he had a meeting this morning. He walked out and got into the car. Just as he was about to start the engine, something cold pressed against the back of his head. Startled, she realized that it was a gun. A soft voice came from behind him. Chun, give me the things in the bag. It was Ronglai's voice. Chen's body stiffened. She clenched her fists. Ronglai, I think I forgot something, so I didn't get on the plane. Ronglai's voice was a little light. Chun, be good and give me the thing. Chen took a deep breath. If I don't give it to you, will you kill me? Ronglai put away the gun and said calmly, Yes, I can't bear to kill you. But I think I can bear to kill Lan Yu's mother and Lin Cece. As soon as he finished speaking, Chen's body stiffened. Be good, I'll count to 3. If you don't give me the thing, you can start with Lin Cece, Ronglai said calmly. Chen closed his eyes and handed him the test report from his bag. Ronglai took it. In just a second, his expression changed completely. She was pregnant with Lan Yu's child. The muscles on his face were trembling. He was no longer as arrogant and indifferent as usual. The girl that he loved so much, who was so pure, had a child with another man. Ronglai chuckled, and there was a hint of desolation in his laughter. Chapter 2879. Drive the car to the airport. Ronglai's voice was very deep. Chen's fingers held the steering wheel and didn't move for a long time. He seemed to be impatient and narrowed his eyes. Chun, you should know my character. No, I don't know you. Chen closed her eyes. Ronglai, maybe I never knew you. Her voice became soft. When I was young, what I liked was just an illusion, not the real you. She didn't like him and didn't love him anymore, but she was still sad that he had become like this. All these years of love were just a lie. Ronglai's face was as dark as water. Then, I don't mind letting you really know me once. After that, he held the phone, cut off one of Lin Cece's fingers. Chen's body was completely stiff. Before she could speak, there was a tragic cry from the other side of the phone. Her face froze. She could tell that it was Lin Cece's voice. Ronglai, Chen's voice was trembling. You're so cruel. Yes. His voice was very calm. Cruelty is my true face. Chun, all these years of pain have long worn away the softness in my heart, and the only kindness I have is you, but you're so disobedient. Chen closed her eyes. What do you want? Drive to the airport and go back to France with me. His tone was calm. Chen clenched her fingers. I thought you would want to go back to New York. After we get married, I will take you there, he said very indifferently. Chen opened her eyes and looked ahead. What if I don't? I don't care about their lives. You know, I've always been very selfish. Lan Yu laughed softly. But I know that you care about Lan Yu's mother. Think about it. If she dies, can you be with Lan Yu at ease? Chen didn't say anything, but his fingers tightened on the steering wheel. I'll give you 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, Lan Yu's mother's finger will be broken. Ronglai calmly counted. Chen's forehead was covered in sweat, and his whole body was covered in sweat. She knew that once she boarded the plane to France, there was no turning back. She and Lan Yu were finished. She knew Ronglai's methods too well. But at this moment, she had no choice. Ronglai suddenly chuckled. Do you know why the old lady fell in my hands? Chen's heart skipped a beat. Because I asked someone to call her and say that something happened to you. That's why the old lady rushed over and didn't bring the bodyguard that Lan Yu gave her. Ronglai's voice had a touch of evil. Chen closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she didn't say anything but started the car. She lost. She lost completely. Ronglai knew her so well that he knew all her weaknesses. And Ronglai in the back seat smiled with satisfaction. It's just that he felt sad about this kind of satisfaction. Because he had lost Chen. He had lost his entire life. Chen drove so fast that Ronglai almost thought that she wanted to die with him. But he knew that she wouldn't because she had something to worry about. An hour later, the white Bentley stopped at the airport. Qin Shin got out of the car immediately, and Ronglei confiscated her mobile phone. On the luxurious plane, Blue Mother and Lin Cece were tied to the seat. Lin Cece's hands were covered with blood, which was still dripping. There was a small cut finger on the white carpet. Chapter 2880. This is the first time she has been so close to Lin Cece. She used to think that this girl was very willful, but now she is very pitiful. If she hadn't been involved in her and Ronglei, Lin Cece would probably still be the willful princess. Let me operate on her, she whispered. Lin Cece shook her head, her face full of sweat. It's no use. Qinshin, why did you come? It's clear that happiness is at hand, so she doesn't need to care, and Lan Yu's mother used to hate her so much. Why did Qinshin come? She can be happy. Lin Cece cried, tears and sweat dripping down together. She almost cried. I don't want you to care. You go. Ronglei is so abnormal. Qinshin comes, and Lan Yu is almost impossible. As she said, she struggled hard, regardless of the injury on her hand. Blue Mother on one side is also crying, I hurt you, Chun-chun. I am useless. I am fooled by them. Qin-chun smiled lightly. No, you want me to go with him? I can't escape. Not Blue Mother. That person will also be Lan Yu. She never forgot what Ronglei said to her last night. She would rather be Blue Mother than Lan Yu. She whispered, let her go and wash away her memory. I'll go to France with you. Blue Mother's eyes widened. Chun-chun. Qin-chun squatted down slowly. She held Blue Mother's hand and said softly, because I love Lan Yu, so I want him to be well. Perhaps she should never look back. She knows the danger and Ronglei's ambition. She turned back and hurt Lan Yu and the people around him. Now it's Blue Mother, and later it may be Lan Yu or the Qin family and the Tang family. She has no choice. I really love him, Qin-chun said, with tears in her eyes. She took out a small thing from her pocket and shook it in front of Blue Mother. Blue Mother's eyes are a little straight. She wants to struggle. She wants to remember something important, but this memory is still washed away. A few minutes later, Qin-chun whispered, send her back. Her memory is washed away. Lin Cece bit her teeth. I don't want to. Qin-chun, you don't want to do this to me. Ronglei motioned people to send Blue Mother away. When she woke up, she would forget all this. Qin-chun said in a low voice, I want her alive, otherwise I won't do anything for you. Of course. Ronglei smiled. Qin-chun looked at Lin Cece and said, Qin-chun. Lin Cece nodded. Her eyes were filled with determination. Qin-chun smiled and looked at her, but his words were directed at Ronglei. I want someone to accompany me. Ronglei agreed. Qin-chun lowered his eyes and reached out to rub Lin Cece's sweaty hair. Does it hurt? Lin Cece shook her head, then nodded again. Qin-chun closed his eyes, slowly turned around, and took his cell phone from Ronglei's hand. She dialed Lan Yu's number. This time, Lan Yu answered. Qin-chun paused for a moment and said slowly, I'm sorry, I love Ronglei. She hung up her cell phone after that, and her heart was numb. She took out the SIM card and threw it out. It seems that she threw away the connection between her and Lan Yu. At that moment, her face was as pale as paper. She had stolen this relationship from him, and now it was time to return it. Lan Yu, I'm sorry. If there's a next life, I will find you when I was 12 years old, and I will always love you. Even if you don't want me, even if you don't love me and ignore me, I will always be with you. Lan Yu, goodbye, because I miss you well. Qin-chun looked at Ronglei and said, Are you satisfied now? Ronglei frowned and said, Chun-chun, you will forget him and fall in love with me again. You will return to the world we used to live in. That is the world that belongs to us. You're just lost. She smiled and said, It doesn't matter. She leaned on his shoulder and looked at Anna behind him. She turned her face slightly and looked up at him. Was it Anna who chopped off one of Lin Cece's fingers? Ronglei did not speak. Qin-chun smiled and said, It seems that you haven't given me an engagement ring yet. Hearing her words, Ronglei relaxed and said, Let's pick one together when we go back to France, okay? Qin-chun put her face on his shoulder again and smiled. But I want the one in her hand. Ronglei looked at Anna, and saw that Anna's face was ashen. Lei smiled and said, "Take it if you want. Anna won't mind." Shin smiled sweetly and said, "I'm afraid that you will mind." After saying that, she took the gun and pointed it at Anna's arm. Anna's body trembled, and she stepped back with a pale face. With a bang, she was shot in the arm. Shin's voice was cold and inhuman. "The aorta is damaged. Even if you survive, this arm will be useless." Anna's body hit the cabin door behind her, and blood kept flowing down. Lei didn't even blink. He raised his hand and asked someone to carry Anna away. Then he looked at Shin and said, "As long as you are happy." "Yes, I am happy." Shin returned the gun to him. For a moment, she wanted to kill him, but she didn't want to die. Even if there was a glimmer of hope, she wanted to come back alive. Even if there was a glimmer of hope. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.